Okay, that's okay. If you don't want to introduce now, you can also introduce later as we all interact. I hope you can see my screen. Yeah. So here is what we will do. I would take about 10 minutes roughly, not more. I don't want to talk too much. Just quickly introduce open learning to you. I would not really talk about Aarohi much. I would more talk about open learning as a concept because I think that's more important. Um, and then I would invite Advik. Advik has been with Aarohi for I don't know how many years, many many years. I don't even remember when he was part of Aarohi. So many years, and he would share not his whole journey, but more of the recent journey, especially with respects to how he sets his own goals, his own how he charts his own roadmap, and how he's building his own life. So that's the interesting part, and I'm sure that is more interesting. Uh, so kind of we together would take about half an hour, and after that we will have question and answer. So I'll just request you to hold on to your questions. You can either just keep it with you or type it in the chat, and then once Advik has shared, you can first ask questions to Advik. And that time you can even ask about when he was much younger and all that, and how he did open learning at that time and all that. And I'm sure he will be willing to answer. And you can obviously ask me questions about Aarohi, and we'll talk more about Aarohi at that time. Yeah. So right. So we are all set. Right. So I want to start with this thought that the whole concept of education has been kind of almost like a mono education, as in uh, the whole concept has been very mono education, as in only one kind of education um, has been kind of given, at least given to me when I was a kid. There was only one option, school, right? And by and large, most schools were similar, meaning plus and minus a little bit here and there. But what we have realized that we can look at not just education, but more importantly, our life in a very different way. And when we look at it in a very different way, that's when things really open up, and uh, we can go by what Richard Bach is saying, and then we can kind of fly. That's the way we look at it. Yeah. So our journey started with this very simple question: what is the purpose of education? And somehow it appeared to us that everybody was trying to talk about career and job and settling down in life and those kind of things. But we really said, hey, that really the purpose of education, or is the purpose of education to live, right? In that sense, living and education are synonymous. Okay, just one moment. Yeah. So we feel learning, education, living is actually one thing. It never stops. It goes right till the end of our life, and yeah, they're the same thing. Yeah, and for us to be able to live and to learn, and so to say, to get educated, what I really need is, as a child and even as an adult, is to lead myself. Only when I'm allowed to lead myself, then I can, kind of think, hey, what is it that I want to do, how I want to do, when I want to do, with whom I want to do, how much I want to do, how well I want to do. So when I take up the leadership of my life, then everything kind of is very intense as well as very joyful. And isn't that something we all want? We all want to lead our lives. I mean, why do we think that the children have to be kind of spoon fed as to no, you don't know what is right or wrong, I will tell you what is right or. In any case, when we are saying let the child lead his or her learning, we are not trying to say that we have no role to play. The child will automatically need guidance, mentoring, support, so on and so forth, which is where the family and if you're part of a community, the community comes into play. Yeah. So that is the core of open learning, where we offer the child the the leadership of himself or herself. which means the child decides everything, obviously with our support and our guidance. So this thought that I am the leader of myself leads to four very interesting thoughts, and I'll present them very quickly to you. The first one is, the moment we think like that, we don't need to bind the child by a curriculum. We can let the child lead, decide what the child wants to learn. Whether the child wants to do crochet, child wants to do drumming, or the child wants to do um, physics, the child wants to do coding, the child wants to do cooking, the child wants to do whatever, right? Uh, and Advik will share his story of what he wanted to do at some point of his life. Yeah, so we don't bind the child with a curriculum. And because we are not bind the child with the curriculum, we don't need to teach the child. The child will automatically want to learn things as the child is doing different things, and the child will ask. The child may ask for a teacher, the guide, or a mentor, or a help, or the child may not need any of that. The child can figure out YouTube, websites, apps, libraries. There is so many resources, but people as well as uh, other form of digital and book kind of resources available for the child. And because we are not teaching, because the child is deciding, then it's automatic that the child doesn't really need anybody to assess, but the child can use his own or her own self reflection, and obviously feedback from peers and adults who are connected with the child. So we don't really need exams and tests and stuff like that. If the child wants to give a test or an exam to for a particular purpose, then that's okay. Then the child can give that. But the exams are not given for the sake of exam, or nobody is testing the child for the sake of testing, but for a specific purpose. And I'll talk more about that later. Uh, and the last and a very interesting presupposition which comes from this exam thing is that then even the school, college, degrees are all optional. We are not trying to say that one shouldn't have a degree. We're saying whoever needs a degree, go ahead and have a degree. Whoever doesn't need a degree, you can learn in many different ways. You can learn self-learning, you can be an apprentice, you can do courses, read books, so many things. Especially, I would say a lot of interesting things can be learned when we are interns, when we are learning with people who are already doing, who are like an expert, right? So that's the fourth. So these are the four thoughts which kind of form the whole aspect of open learning. And the if you ask me, then okay, so if this is open learning, then what is Aarohi? So in one slide, let me say it is not just an open learning space, but it's a community, which means first of all, it's not a school. It's a place where a lot of different families will come together, and a lot of children will come together, and we all support each other. A child can teach adult, and adult can teach child. Um, just one moment, and so on. Yeah. So the children and adults are all co-living, co-learning, co-journeying, co-creating, and so on. So that's the Aarohi. So Aarohi has that added important aspect of people being there all together and all learning from each other. Yeah. Okay, so that was my rapid fire introduction to Aarohi, and more importantly to open learning. So I think I've set the tone, but I'll quickly totally change the channel and invite Advik. Oh, Advik, your video just got switched off. Can you switch it on again? Just at the time when I was about to invite you. Yeah, you're back. Right. So let me invite Advik. So when we were thinking, me and Advik were thinking, what is it that you would like to share? Just your overall journey has his actually overall journey has been already recorded with his parents. There is a webinar in our playlist where which you can go back, and if you want to hear the whole of Advik's journey right from when they started open learning, especially with inputs from his parents. So he has already done one webinar with his parents, but today we have invited just him because what I really wanted him to talk about, and when we discussing, actually he only suggested let me talk about how I've created different milestones for myself, my own roadmap of learning, and how I'm walking on that road, right? So that is what he would be sharing. Yeah. So, yeah, Advik,
Mm,
over
yeah,
to you.
sure. Slides.
Yes, dear. Right. So what he is going to share is his concept of roadmap. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
So um, you can click once, just once, like click. Okay. So this is once where I went to my cousin's house, and he is older than me, and he has been kind of an influence, like whatever he does type, like okay, like wow, that's good type. So I was just randomly sitting and doing nothing, and he gave me a book. The book will be shown in some time, let that be suspense. So he gave me this book and told that only some percentage, he told 5 or 10% have read this book. And so if you want to read it, since you're doing nothing for one whole week, you can read it. So I'm like, okay, that's good. Since I didn't have anything to do, I was bored. So I took the book and I read few pages, and then the introduction was really good. That I don't know how, but I read that whole book in exactly 7 days. Uh, and I am not a very reading type of guy. Like if I see books and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna read it. I'm like gonna stay away from it. But this book like was really interesting, and it caught on to me. Ratnesh, click once. And the book is Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm sure many of you might have heard of it. If not, you can also read it. It's a very interesting book. So in this book, what they talked about is more of the financial knowledge of how people are staying poor and not getting rich, and all of these things. So in that, there were three main things, which were investing in bonds, stock market, and land, real estate. Real estate, I'm like, that didn't catch on to me. The main thing that caught on to me was stock market, because I thought I could also like understand how it works, not get into it as such, but understand how it works. So that kind of built some curiosity on, okay, let's understand what that is. And next slide.
Advik, would you like to share how old were you when you read this book?
Oh yes, I was. When did I, last year? I think I was 12. Yeah, I was 12, 13. That type. 12, 13. Yeah,
And how old
I
are
was
you
gonna turn
now?
13. I am 14. Yeah, 14. Going to turn
Yeah, so it's
15.
about couple of years, right? Back that you read this book.
Yeah, 2 years. 2 years. Yeah,
Right. So
two,
he was about to turn 13 and now you're about to turn 15, right?
15. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's about 2 years. Okay, I just wanted to
two
give
years
that
back.
time perspective to people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So 2 years back, this book happens. Carry on. You want the next slide? Yeah.
Yep. Click one.
Okay.
Okay, this phase I would call it the basic exploration of what uh what I really did. So first thing I went and I'm like, I need to understand how the stock market really works. And at that time, the only thing I wanted to know is I want to know how it works. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? So people talked about Nifty, Sensex. What are those things? The top companies and the basic stuff on what really is the stock market. And the most basic example is that there's a lemonade stall, and they have their business, and now they want to expand it. For that they need money, and they get money from public, and then whatever the profit is, they get to share. That is the most basic example everyone kept giving, and I'm like, then how does the actual market work? Because there is a lot of stuff going up and down. So that is what I was thinking at that time. So I think the basic exploration was like one of the hardest time. It took a lot of time on understanding how the market works really, because I had no clue at all about how the market works, how to even get in, how is it traded really.
And what did you
So
use for this basic exploration?
yeah, so this basic exploration was videos and few articles, not a since I'm not a reading type of guy. So it was all videos. And so yeah, these examples were given. Next one. Yeah. So this question really got into me, is like, what should I learn? so I can like at least start understanding, and maybe
Yeah.
sorry, I got a call. So maybe if there is a possibility to like start investing or trading or whatever. All I knew was people were getting really rich by stock market. That's it. Um, so that is when my dad, me and my dad, I told him I'm doing all of this stuff, and he's like, "Why not try a course?" And I'll tell you what varsity is a little bit while. So I took up that course, which was at that time for me pretty advanced once I started it really. So all I wanted to do at that time was to finish the course, whatever course I bought. I just wanted to finish it, and then I'm like, finally, I'll be able to understand how the market really works. And while I was doing the course, I started in, since I had now a bit knowledge and I can like go back to my cousin and ask for help. And I told him that this is the course I'm doing, and tell me like, is it worth the time to spend so much more time? Because it was so complicated, the course. One video is about 8 minutes long, and it took me almost what, one and a half hour to understand it. The language was extremely complex, so I had to take Ratnesh's help sometimes, and few other people who were there, my father's help, to just understand one video because the language was very very complex. Then I was talking to my cousin, and he's like, there's this thing called Varsity Zerodha, which is also a course from Zerodha of the most basic stuff ever. So it covers the basic stock market stuff. He told me two things. First, you read the basics of the market, understand how it works. What is an NSE, BSE, what are IPOs, secondary market, primary market, and all of these things, which was covered in the first chapter. And the second is he told me to learn something called technical analysis. And in that whole thing in varsity, it took me about 6 to 8 months to read it, which I had no idea at that time. So now my goal from finishing the course suddenly shifted to finishing the varsity thing, because
Mhm.
once I read the first few chapters of technical analysis, then I'm like, I can actually do something with it. Now I know what I am looking at. This is how the market really works and all. So it
So
was
that's
like a
where,
U-turn.
yeah, that's where your goal became to finish this so that you can start trading. Yeah, that time that was
Yeah,
your goal.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was my
Okay.
goal. So I was like, first let me learn how to now trade, since it gave me a bit knowledge of what are candlesticks and the basic stuff about trading.
Mm, mm,
And yeah, I'll. So once I finished it, I had a fair idea on how the market works, what is few indicators and all of that, which helps to have a idea in mind and all. This was the stuff I learned. Next slide. Uh, so now after that, this is like what, till last year. It took me till last year, January, February, yeah, March. It took me some time to like understand all of this. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was very simple. Plus, it was the reading material, and so it took me even more time to like make notes and all of those things. Yeah, so once I finished it March, and then there was lockdown, and there's a huge gap. And at that time I was like, now it just, I don't know what happened, like it just popped out of my mind type, like stock market is like no more there, since there was like a very huge gap. And I started coding and all of that. And after that, once I started coding again, my cousin, I gave my call to a cousin saying that how are you type. And he told me that this is the right time to start trading. And that is when I'm like, okay. And he's like, you have to learn fundamental analysis. Since the market had also crashed, you have to learn this so you can pick quality stocks. So that is when you can click a few more times.
sure.
Yeah. So that is when my dad told me about this webinar. It was a very simple webinar, but a very powerful one, about how people have got into stock market, the live examples, and how their money was compounding. So where I learned about what is compounding, and many different important and basic concepts which later on helped me. So um, this is in March time. So that is when that webinar, and then he also had a course. So me and my dad together decided that we'll take up the course, and that is when we attended the course. Like um, it was a course. Yeah, me and my dad were like continuously reading about it and learning about what is gonna come. So we're like prepared for the next session he's gonna do, and it was I wouldn't say it was very good right now, but at that time it really helped me because it helped me to get starting to trade. So it covered the basics of technical analysis, few indicators, and all of those things. And because my dad was there, it helped me a lot. He explained me live what is this when I kept asking him. So that was very good, and we also learned the fundamental analysis chapter in varsity. So this was, and out of all the sudden, since we're learning and all, my father's like, you can like trade from my account, which was there. Like randomly, you can like take few trades, and I was just looking at the mobile and seeing how the price going. And when it was going down, that is when I just randomly bought it. And like, oh, I remember which trade it was also. It was Indus India Bank and five quantity. I don't remember the price right now, but all I bought was five stocks, and I was very excited because there's money coming in. It's going up and down, up and down. I'm like, oh god, what is happening type. And then slowly, I just randomly started picking out stocks, and also after a few trades, then I actually started using the strategy he told. The strategy is of some 20 moving average. That is all. It is simple, but yeah, it takes time to understand. So then I started trading from my dad's account, and he kept buying it for me. I told him this has happened like this. You can buy it. You can buy it. So he also started buying. Then I told him, and I whatever he told, that you have to do all of this stuff. I was doing it regularly. Updating trade journal. Trade journal. I'll tell you what a trade journal is, since um, it is basically updating your trades: when you bought, when you exited, how much quantity, and what is the strategy you use. It is basically looking back at your trades and seeing what went right, what went wrong, what I could have done better, where I messed it up. So for I think about 1 month, I kept doing this. And then I told my dad, since I don't get the feel of there is this much amount of capital, this much I'm growing. I didn't know how much I was growing. So I'm like, give me uh, some money and open a separate account for me, so I'll know if I am growing or not. And one of the reason why I told him this is also because many of the investors or traders were saying that if you are making 30% a year, then it is you're considered a very good trader, and you can't be out of the market if you're not doing stuff stupid. So that is when I told him, yeah, I need an account and some money, so I can like know how much I'm growing.
Mm.
So that is when I would say my actual like trading journey started. And now I'll talk about that. Next slide. Okay. So while I was buying stocks using the strategy which was told to me, I was using it. And at that time, currently, I had made 10% since the market was trending and all of that. But then, when I was watching videos and all, many people were talking about price action and not indicators. Why indicators are not used? So really was curious what is price action, how it works, and all of that. Then I watched, I guess, about 4 or 5 videos to understand on the patterns, how you draw, and all of that. I'll show you the charts also, like few of the pictures. So that is when I learned about that. Then I started intraday trading. because most of the price action people were doing that. So I'm like, okay, let me also do that. And first few days, the first day I traded, I took two trades and I made around 300 rupees. And I was like, wow, this is so good and I should just keep doing that. Then the next day, I made about similar around 300 rupees or something. Then I took another trade and lost 150 rupees, 150 or 200 rupees. Most of my profits were gone. And I realized if I am doing this, the tax per trade is also a lot. So I win few and lose few. There is no point. So I kept continuing like this for about 3 4 months, probably with one or two positional trades sitting, which is growing, and I'm losing intradays. So it took me, I guess, 5 to 6 months to realize that no, I should stop intraday trading. It won't help. Even if I win two and lose one, I'm still in the losing side, because if I'm winning 70-70, losing 70 plus taxes, everything's gone. So I'm not growing. Then that is when I started positional trading, and I learned a simple technique where I have 100, 150 stocks, and I was just looking at those stocks, looking at patterns. If there is an opportunity, I am taking it. Otherwise, I am not. So that I built my first, I would say, basic setup where I am just focused on this and nothing else. So I was looking at that, taking few trades, and this is from I started it from September, October, and September, October, November, around 2 3 months I did that, and my account had grown 20%. So I'll tell you my starting amount, which was 34,000, and now it is about 42, 43, up and down. So that is when I've built the most basic setup. And
So
that
at,
time, my yeah, I'll tell you. At
yeah.
that time, my only goal was the 30%, nothing else. I'm like, I should touch 30% this year. That's it.
Okay. So then what was your next goal? So I'm just saying how we move from one goal to another. At this stage,
Yeah.
what was your next goal then?
Uh, yeah. So I still haven't achieved the 30% goal.
Hmm.
It is still running since it's
So
up, down, up,
that is
down.
a little far off goal, but what is your immediate what was your roadmap of learning also?
Yeah. So here, I was just when I was learning the indicators and all, it wasn't really helpful. So I'm like, I should rely on a more dependent thing where I am like focused on that, just that much. So building my basic trade setup was one of my goals, where I'm not lost, because I realized I'm lost. I'm losing so many opportunities here and there, and it just doesn't help, because you feel messed up most of the time. So my first goal was to build a basic setup.
Yeah.
Mm.
Next slide.
Yeah, yeah. So these are few pictures of the charts, and as you can see, these are all just lines drawn. And the system I use for trading is the breakout system, since it gives a more price. You capture more move, and you get more profit from it. So there were few losing trades, few winning trades, all were part of the game, and it was going on. And my first goal was obviously to reach the 30% mark, but the second goal is my trade accuracy should be more than 80%, which is a lot. People say 70, 60 is good, but I'm like, it should be over 80. So this was my second goal. So these are a few pictures of the charts which I just drew, and I kept sending it to my cousin saying that, look, this is what I'm doing. Since he has given me few tips and all of that, he also knows what I'm doing. So I just thought I'll share some for few pics. Yeah. Um. Next, next slide. Okay. So now what? Now what am I planning to do? Okay. So there is many people say that only 5% of the people make money in the market, and the 95% don't. So what is the key thing that only the 5% use? And this is also what my cousin told, since he's You can call him my mentor, my trading mentor. So he told me about this tool. It's called CPR, Central Pivot Range, which is based just on the price. And it is an indicator, but it is also price action. So it was a mix. And I thought, okay, I should learn a bit about it. So when he came to my house and he showed me how the system works. We took a few trades also on, so I could see how it works and what r- analysis is required for it. And it wasn't simple at all, and there's a whole book on how this system works. And he showed me a few basic stuff, like if this happens then you can take a trade and all of that. But it told, read this book and then only start using the setup, otherwise it's not going to help you. So I started reading this book and still reading it. So my next goal is now to finish the book and start trading using this setup. And whatever I've learned, I've started using and it's helping me great. And this learning options came to me a few weeks back when I was watching there's a YouTuber who records few live trades, and he was showing how options can be more profitable if you can analyze the markets. And what I thought, I can analyze the markets, I'll know when the market is going up, when the market is going down, and the risk amount which I'm taking is very less. So if I learn options, the reward is more and the risk is more, but I know what I'm doing, so it will be very good for me. And this is my, I would say, a little bit long term goal is to learn Pine script and build indicators. In this book, which I'm reading currently, as I told, there are a lot of indicators which are not available. It is available in their trading website, which is some foreign this thing, foreign trading brokerage firm. So I can't really use it. So now me and my cousin, we both are working on this. Is he's working on building the system to work to trade, and I am building the indicators which will help to take the trades even more easily. So for that, there's the language called PineScript to make indicators in the charting software I'm using. So yeah, that is my, I would say, 8 months to 1 year goal, which is to learn PineScript. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so as I told, build indicators to add to my setup. Yeah, so there are a few of my friends. This is an immediate goal. I play cricket also with my friends here and all. So since they got to know what I'm doing and all, they're all college and above that age. So they're like, "Can you also teach a bit of trading and all of that?" So I'm like, "Sure, I can teach you." And yeah, so that's also like it will take part. So that is also like teaching a few people about trading is also um another goal. Yeah, that is it for now. Later, let's say if I find options very interesting, then I might start options. And yeah, many other things are there, which is like, yeah, right now, based on what happens, then I'll see what next I can do. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you, Advik. That was very absorbing, at least for me. Even though I know the story, but still to hear it once again is always very interesting. I know it's almost like a crash course on how to approach, on one side, stock trading, but I think it was to me a crash course on how to approach open learning, where uh, I leave that for you to now pick from this what you gain and what you are thinking about it. But I would summarize it that finally the whole thing is about the learning, the planning, the results, the reflection. Everything is in this case Advik's hand, and in open learning it's all there in the child's hand. And as in case of Advik, there is always parents, there's always cousins, there's always a whole community to guide him, to help him in this journey. Okay, so thank you, Advik. Stay around. Let's see what questions people have, both for you and for me. So now over to all of you. You have been patiently listening. Now you can ask questions. You need not ask questions about stock market and all. uh, that you can connect with Advik if you want to learn about stock trading and all that.
Yeah, I'll put my number in the chats
Yes, yes,
for
do
the
that,
people if you
Advik.
want to connect
Yeah,
about trading.
your phone number and email ID you can put. Meanwhile, I would suggest people, if you have questions about Advik as an open learner, or yeah, about Aarohi and open learning, now you can shoot your questions. In fact, let me stop sharing. And I would invite people to come on video. As many people can um, switch on your videos, that would be really nice. Advik, if you can stay on the video for some more time. And yeah, please, if more people can join me on the video, that would be nice. And we can start chit chatting about open learning. Right, Ram, you're talking about how old? I think we briefly mentioned the age when he started. When you say when you started out, as in when you started out open learning, I think Advik was about 8 years or so when he started out open learning, and he was part of Aarohi somewhere around that 8 or 9 years. 8 years, I think. Yeah, he was not in any class, so it's not the class part is not important. Yeah. Yeah. So you can come on mic. And again, as I said, the idea of sharing Advik's story was not to talk about stocks. That is what he wants to talk about, obviously, all the time, or cricket. But the idea was to experience
Yeah.
kind of in
So
a
what
way
else? Was,
how a journey goes of an open learner. Again, it is his journey. Not every journey would be same.
which follows,
Not
yes.
every journey even needs to be same,
Yeah.
but the idea is to understand how learning can beautifully evolve from the person who wants to lead it.
So there has to be a lot of parental support in terms of what they want to do or how they should provide proceed. Because today we tell the children what they need to do. So we'll have to completely stop with that or lay off.
Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean by lot of. I would say it only requires that much support that any parent would anyway give to their children. So I won't say it is lot of support. I would say it is just support, which I'm sure every parent is ready to give to their child.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Because
don't want
today,
it to look like some very big thing. It is not big. It is just very important in your life. Your child is very important. I think the importance is more important than the size of it.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Suma, I think he mentioned the inspiration, how he read the book, and maybe you, if you missed the initial part, his cousin and a book, and that was his starting journey. And then I think his own journey inspired his every step was a kind of inspiration from a previous one. So Arshima is asking Advik, what other topics have you learned in this open manner?
There are a lot of other stuff like one thing that is straight up coming to my mind is crochet, then some other art related things, exploring other different things, then um what else,
Drumming,
a bit of, yeah, drumming. Yeah, drumming also, a lot of drumming.
crochet, cricket.
Yeah, cricket also a bit, I would say. Then
Then lots of other things, making buildings and lots of.
yeah, keyboard, yeah, lot of other things.
I have to remind him he's now so deep into stocks he has forgotten rest of his life. Well, I would say if you look back and see so many things he has been exploring since whatever 8 9 years till almost 14 years when he has now totally deep dived, okay, into stocks. So lots and lots of things. Adyast is asking how much time do you give to this whole stock trading, learning about trading and so on? How many hours in a day do you devote to that?
Per day it depends. Like, so if it is weekdays when the markets are open, I sit from around 10, I would say, not from 9. I from 10 till 2 o'clock. I observe depending on the market, like how it is. That is 4 hours. Then after the market closes, then I do my own analysis of different stocks and pick stocks which in maybe tomorrow or in the near future which can give me few opportunities. So that is the trading part. Then learning part, I spend 1 to 2 hours learning um stuff and watching different people on what trades they have taken. Yeah.
And okay, Ganesh is asking, where do you live? How do you get to Aarohi? Do your parents live with you? Or rather, do you live with your parents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
um I live Kanakpura Road, Bangalore. And what else? What else is
How
there?
do you get to Aarohi? Uh,
How do you get like
I think they,
from
they possibly mean how do you travel. So before lockdown, it was Advik, you can share. Right now, he's not coming to ROE. Rather, we
yeah.
are all connected online. But so right now, he's traveling through internet. But before that, you can share how you used to travel.
Yeah, before that, we used to go by train from Bayapnali, that is a railway station, to Kelamangalam, which is near to campus. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Shrujana is asking all their topics you have yourself initiated, or someone has inspired you, or suggested by parents.
No, I wouldn't say all the topics. Like crochet, I learned by someone doing it. I'm like, okay, let's see what that is. Then drumming is also something similar that uh, there was a resource person coming teaching drumming, so I'm like, why not try it out? And I was there with drumming after that for 2 years. So it's every time it's different. So someone this you hear something about it, or you see something going on, and then you like uh explore. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that answer that every time it's different. Yeah, we don't need to package the way of learning in any one way. Okay, somebody's asking, are you planning to take the board exam next year? Uh, i- is that on your
um
is that on your roadmap?
I would say it's kind of clashing in my mind because right now I'm fully into stocks and I don't wanna like get into the exam mode and studying mode right now. But let's it's a vague thought. Like let's say if I wanna later on open a firm or anything, then if I need, then I might. So first I need to research about it more. Then then I'll think about it type. But as of now,
Yeah,
no.
but just to tell you, Advik, just to open a firm, run a firm, make millions of rupees, you don't necessarily need to go to college. But if you feel like going to college, obviously you can go to college. So
Oh,
there is no
I haven't.
requirement like that. Yeah. But
Okay.
anyway, he is not really researched, so you can get a sense of where
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is right now.
I haven't researched about it. It's just a
Okay.
what do you say, a thought.
Somebody's asking, what was Aarohi role in your endeavor or whatever your life? So over to you for that.
Okay. Um. Wait. Simplify the question for me.
Simplify. What was Aarohi's role in this whole journey of yours?
Okay. So particularly in the stock market journey, I was the accountant for like I don't know 1 year, and
That was when he
uh,
was 11
I w-
years old.
yeah, that was when I was 11, 1 year before I started the start of the trading journey.
Yeah, so let me
So
tell
when I
you
was
that
reading,
the whole accounts he handled for the whole year.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the while reading the book, I think I could really clearly understand the book because of doing the accounts. Otherwise, I probably would have just left the book. I'm like, who cares about this book type.
Yeah, but
So,
that was just
and
yeah,
that
okay,
is
okay, sorry,
one
go
thing.
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
And one more thing is that someone always questions, what are you doing? Why are you doing? And how are you going to do it? So that kind of opens up even now, like now, what do I do? So where do I go for what resources do I look? So the basic for what do you say, on asking few questions has, I don't know, like I would have probably just learned that basic setup and started doing it. But because I was open to looking for a lot of resources and thinking, um, why am I doing this and doing not other stuff? So that also kind of helped me. So also reflection, like thinking about what you did, why you did, and how you wanna go about further. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so what I elaborate on that. What he's talking about is a couple of things which are very core to way we work is uh, thinking, questioning about one's planning. What is it that I'm doing? How am I doing? Which resources am I using? Blah blah blah. We call that as the planning process or design, discuss, do process. And once you are doing it, it's also the reflection process. How did this whole thing go, and so on. So these are the two process I think which is integral to open learning and integral to Aarohi, and that's what he's primarily talking about. Okay, there are some more questions more specific to Aarohi. I'll come to them in just a little while. But if you have more questions for Advik, then let's get Advik's inputs first, and then I can answer more Aarohi specific questions. So
Hi, Advik, and hi, Ratnesh. This is Divya here.
yeah, Divya.
And Advik, I want to ask you, how do you feel actually? You were into a lot of things. You were doing whatever you like, and you were exploring a lot of things. And now finally, you've come into a particular thing. You've chosen something. And how do you feel about it? How are you feeling mentally about it?
Mentally about like coming to one topic together, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
So at that time, it was just exploration of different thing. Whatever comes, I used to do it. Now it's like just it's a totally a different mindset on now what is next. So the thing is now right now I'm sitting and probably after like half an hour I'll be thinking what next to do and a few stocks to pick and the current portfolio which I'm managing of mine. What do I do? So mentally it is, I would say it is more challenging because you have to think of that, then what next, and learning stuff from here and there. It is challenging, but it kind of makes it sorted since you're like, now I'm just gonna do this. You don't have to think of now what am I gonna do. So yeah, it's a different mindset.
Yeah. So to again
okay.
to little elaborate on that, we call it deep diving. So some children, when they figure out or they start thinking, this is where I want to deep dive. So then they kind of deep dive into it, and we all, parents and everybody else in the community, supports them in their deep diving. So that's when they are like deep into it. That time they are not thinking about anything else. I think so. Just bringing the, yeah, that's how we look at it. So
Yeah.
each
Mm.
of one of us would transit from exploratory stage to deep dive at different points of time. Some may even point, so he has done it at this age 14, some may do it at 10, some may do it at 30 years also, or 20 years. So there is no, it's not like that it has to happen at a particular age. Unlike conventional schooling where they say now you decide your specialization, you are whatever 16, 18, 20. In open learning it is all very individual in its process.
And is Aarohi open now, Ratnesh? Like, and also, do you have an opportunity? Like, if we come for 2 days or something, we can come and look out for what something like that. Do you have an opportunity like
Yeah,
that?
I'll just hold on with the Arohi questions.
Okay.
Let us finish Advik questions and then we'll get on with
Okay.
Arohi
Okay.
questions. Okay, Ganesh and Anisha is asking, how do you yourself compare to your friends who go to regular class, like knowledge on a subject and so on?
Subject wise, I would say I it's not like I'm like totally lost. I still have some basic knowledge. I would say some concept I still have in my head. But yeah, what they do is like totally the solving problems. How do you do stuff like that? That way, yeah, I can't compare myself like that. Um, but there's usually not a discussion of uh, not going to school and all because since now I've been there for 1 year and so with them and they know what I'm doing. So they're like, okay, it's worth it. Also, few people think, and they have their own point of views.
Okay, and in connection to that, Arshima is asking, do you discuss stocks with any of your friends? You actually mentioned you're almost teaching them, right?
Yeah, so few people are like asking me what do you do, who are like interested in doing stuff. And currently one of my friend is like asking me to like teach the whatever I learned, I'm to teach. So yeah, so I'm going to teach one of my friends on how to uh, invest and trade.
Yeah. Somebody also wants to know before Aarohi, so that's like before you were 8 years old, and before that, where did you study or which
Yeah.
school you went? I think you were in some Montessori.
Okay.
Yeah,
I went
that's
to
what I.
Gurukul school.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a Montessori school from LKG, yeah, from LKG to third standard. Uh, it was Montessori. The reason why I got taken out of school was because after third there was no Montessori. Um, yeah, but otherwise, if there was Montessori, probably I would have continued like that itself. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Advik, I have a question. So now you know what you want to really do. Like now you're focused on stocks. So before that, you were in this
Yeah.
exploration stage. So how are you feeling? Like you
Yeah.
didn't know you woke up, or like how was that stage where you were still exploring and trying to figure out what you really want to do, and all those 6 years or so.
Yeah. So at that time, it was also very exciting because I had a lot of other stuff like drumming and all. That also kind of, I wouldn't say it was full deep dive, but that also kind of had its own structure. So I kept doing that slowly, slowly, which was pretty good. I still sometimes miss drumming. Like, yeah, I should come 1 week or 2 weeks and drum and feel good. So yeah, but yeah, the exploration stage was, I would say, it was a good foundation to where I am now.
Yeah, I also want to add one more thing is that the let's not think of exploration stage as a stage to find something. I think
Yeah.
that is I would say that's not a good way to look at it. I would literally be judgmental here. I would
Yeah.
say when one is exploring, just explore. Not that at the end of there is an end to an exploration. In fact, some people explore just whole of their life. In fact, on my camera is Mr. Dwiji, who is a I would say perennial explorer. Okay, he is nowhere near the age of Advik, and his daughter is also there, who is also an explorer. And Dwiji is an amazing explorer. God knows how many things he's into, right? You name a thing and he will be into that. So I'm saying one doesn't need to think of exploration. That exploration has to end somewhere, and then you have to do something else. That is, we often give the analogy that some of us are like bees who go into find a flower and drill deep, like Advik is a deep diver, or some of us are like butterflies who are hopping from one flower to another flower to another flower. And Twitchy is one
Yeah.
kind of example. My own daughter, who is 22 years now, who has not gone to school or college at all, meaning earlier, except for first few standards. Uh, so she's totally a butterfly who keeps going from one thing to another. So I just want to give you the sense that it is not that the exploratory stage is a stage and it has to be finished and crossed over. One can just be a
Yeah.
eternal explorer or a deep diver, or maybe at one time Advik will stop deep diving and go back to exploring. Who knows?
Mm.
Open learning is about having that kind of an open mind. So I hope I've kind of added some thoughts to your
Mm.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
That's good.
Well,
yeah.
that's actually an excellent point. We kind of sometimes forget that we always focus on the goal. So we always think we should reach the end point. But we forget to, look around and enjoy the view when we are trying to reach there. That's actually a very good point, Ratnesh.
Thank you. Dviji, you want to add?
Yeah,
Since I
just
pulled
reminds me
you in.
of that. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dviji.
Yeah, just reminds me of that video that I'm trying to remember that one. Yeah, life is not really a journey.
Yeah. This is Alan Watts.
Alan Watts. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll try to look it up and share that.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
very simple explanation of why we should rethink this whole idea that life is a journey. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, nothing else to add. You have already said enough.
Okay, more questions. Uh, Especially if Advik may want to leave, it's already 6 o'clock, but I'm still there to answer all your ROA questions. So if you have last one or two questions to Advik, you can
Yeah.
ask him. It's around 6 o'clock, so I had bought 1 hour of his time. So otherwise, I can move on to Arohi questions or and direct open learning questions. Um,
Okay, one thing. Before the questions, I'll just say it. I put my contact number on all of that in the chats. You can like check it, and you can WhatsApp me or even message me or call me also. Uh, Anytime after 9 to 8 o'clock, 9 in the morning to 8 in the night. Anytime you can call me any day. Yeah.
Thanks, Advik. Thanks for that. I'm sure if there are some people who are interested in trading or interested in guiding Advik, if you are already a trader, if you know about stock market, because that's the beauty of open learning. We are ready to embrace, and I'm more speaking on behalf of Advik. He's ready to embrace anybody who is part of who can be part of his journey. So that's another beautiful thing about open learning. You start looking at the whole world as somebody as the whole world kind of supporting you. Yeah. So yeah, okay. Advik, if it's okay, I'll now start kind of answering more of Arohi related questions. So if you want to hang around, you're most welcome. If you
Yeah,
want
sure,
to
sure.
if you want to step out, that is also okay. Um, okay, so there are multiple questions. I'm just scrolling up and going in the order that they were asked. So just give me a moment for that.
One last
Um,
question to Advik.
yeah,
So
please go
you, I
ahead.
think, yeah, so you were put into open learning by your parents around age of 8, I guess. So it was not you who decided you want to join open learning or something like that. So how is the journey like? When you compare since 1 year you are at home, seeing all the regular school going kids. So how are you feeling? Do you feel like you were given a best opportunity, or do you miss like going to the regular school? What are your feelings? What are your thoughts since you're going around with regular school kids right now?
Advik, you're there. I think his video is frozen. Uh, well, if he comes back, he can answer that question. I think his video got frozen. And that's a question only he can answer. I can't answer on his behalf. So we'll hold on that question, hoping that he comes back. Um, Okay, meanwhile, if it's okay, I'll just answer a few of the other questions. So somebody had asked how many kids are currently studying at Aarohi. So that answer is zero, because nobody is studying in Aarohi. Aarohi is not a study place. Aarohi is a community, first of all. So first of all, we are all together, kids, parents. And if you say how many people are learning things at Aarohi, then all the children and all the parents are learning at Aarohi. So let's say if there are about, let's say 50 families, so that's about roughly about 150 learners. So we are all learners. There's nobody studying in that sense. And each one is learning what they want to learn. So Dwiji is learning what he wants to learn, and his daughter is learning what she wants to learn. His daughter is around 10, right? Who you saw briefly on the video if you happen to see. Shrujana is asking, do children in Arohi give board exams and NOS and all? If they want to, yes. So there are some children who don't give because they don't feel a need. And there are some children who have a need. Let's say there is one child who wants to become a pilot. So he realized to become a pilot, he has to at least have 12, then only he can get into aviation. So that's a requirement in India at least. So he has given recently his last year his 10th examination. So it's really depending on the child and the family. From our side, it's just an option who decides. Okay. Ganesh is asking, what does a day in, he's asking school look like? I'm assuming you mean how does a day look like in Arohi? Typically, so my answer to that is there is no typical day in Arohi. Each child, each day is creating his own day, and each child is creating his or her own structure. which is why each child's and each adult's day is very different. And then it's up to them. One child or adult can decide my everyday should look same, and then it becomes a typical one. And another child and adult can decide my each day can be very different, then it becomes atypical. So if you realize that there is a mix of learners and each one with an own learning style, own learning ways, somebody's doing exercise in the morning, somebody's doing exercise in the night, somebody's late night reading a book, somebody's early riser and doing something early morning, and so on. Somebody likes to work in groups, somebody likes to work all by himself. So there is no typical, right? The most typical thing in Aarohi is that each one is deciding and designing their own self, own life, and obviously discussing, coordinating, connecting, collaborating with different members of the community. So I think that is what is common. Other than that, it's all very different from each individual, which is why it is kind of open learning. So I hope I have answered that question, Ganesh. But if you have more sub questions to it, you can obviously ask me. Let me take a pause while I scan the other questions. Okay. Yeah, sorry,
Hey,
somebody
I
was
do have
on
a
mic. Yeah, yeah. If you have a
I do have
follow-up
a
question.
follow-up question.
Yeah,
This is
please,
Ganesh.
please. Yeah, Ganesh.
So when I asked what does a typical day look like,
Mm-hmm.
I understand it's different. In fact, even in Orinco, it's more or less different
Mm-hmm.
from each day. But my question, I think, if I'm allowed to clarify,
Mm-hmm.
what do they start? How do they get together? Is there some kind of a discipline, or do they just show up in school? I mean, in the at Aarohi, the buildings there, and start playing? Or I mean, I don't know if there is any kind of a structure, even to do whatever they want to, or even to learn whatever they want to learn, or explore whatever they want to explore. Is there a structure? Is there some kind of a guidance from you guys?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, Aarohi works in two ways right now. There could be people coming to the campus, or there could be people connecting from their home, like how we are right now, using different digital tools. Yeah. So in both the cases, I would say forget Aarohi for a minute. The basic open learning approach follows the whole thing of what we call as decide, do, and then reflect. Right? So somewhere, or you can also call it as plan and then do and then reflect. So if you call that as a structure or process or whatever you want to call it, yes, that is the broad, um, you know, um, I've also put that in the chat. So most children would, let's say, for example, even though they are at home and they're connecting to the community online, they would sit with either themselves or with their parents and plan. Many of them plan on a weekly basis. This is what I want to do in this week, right? And then they would broadly plan, oh, I want to do dancing and I want to do crochet, or I want to do cooking, or whatever they want to do. So they will plan it out and they will discuss their plans with their parents or with the community. They could have buddies in the community or mentors in the community, and then they would go about doing that. Each one of us would do what we have planned. We may not do everything. We may do some may change its shape and form and so on. So that's not exactly a watertight kind of thing. And then obviously there's a reflection again on a daily, weekly basis as to how the whole thing went. So if you are asking for a structure, yes, that's the broad structure. Yes, for some of those things we come together, we to share our plans with each other, we come together. For reflecting, we come together. For doing, smaller groups can come together, which is what we call as collaboration groups, where they can collaborate amongst a few of them. So that's broadly how the whole thing works. But uh, yeah, so the underlying thing is that the structure is there, definitely there, but that structure is created by the child and by the adult and by each one of us, rather, for ourselves. And obviously, because it is shared, others pull, challenge, question, help, support, guide, give ideas, and so on. So all of that dynamics happens.
One important
So
word, Agnesh, negotiate.
Yeah, negotiate. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Preeti is asking, I think something related. What if a child don't want to plan and lead randomly? Yes, that is also okay. I think that means that the child is still figuring out how to take one's life forward. And it's not just children. I would say so many adults, uh, including me at times, are very random in our approach. A lot of days I say my day is unplanned. I will see how it goes, how it comes, and so on. So I think let's not put down randomness as something below structuredness. I would just say there are two parts of our life. Sometimes we are random, sometimes we are very planned. It really depends on at what stage of your journey you are and what aspect you want to focus on. So maybe at this point of time, for example, Advik is not random, he's very structured, but even within his structure there's fair amount of randomness as to what is he choosing. Somebody can question, why are you not getting into options trading, why are you on to getting on to the script kind of trading? So again, that's his decision, so that can be called as random. He is not following a curriculum laid down by a, let's say, an MBA course or anything like that. So are you getting me? It's all it's not a straight two ends, this or that. It's a continuum, and you could be at different points at different times. Yeah, so Shrujana, I think I've kind of answered your question. Again, it's not about either being a jack of all, not about being master of one. I said it could be one passion, it could be multiple passions, it could be just very exploratory. I think these terms of jack of all, master of none, all of these have come from the very system of conventional education. So I would personally say all these proverbs are not really related to open learning and not definitely related to some of our lives. So I would just leave it very open and see how things go. Okay, Adya is asking, can children out of... Yes, yes, Adya, we are, first of all, Aarohi campus is not even in Karnataka. Aarohi campus is in Tamil Nadu. Yes, children from not just India, anywhere can come and be part of it. Part of Aarohi, we have children from Punjab, from Delhi, from Coimbatore, from Mumbai. Just now, half an hour back, one car has come from Mumbai with some passengers. So we have people from all over, absolutely. Anybody from anywhere in this world is welcome. We may welcome aliens also, though we haven't had any visitors till now. Or maybe they are around and I'm not aware. Yeah, so let me go back. There were a few more questions and some more people wanted to come on mic. So you're most welcome. Please ask me. I'll be there till I answer all your questions. So don't worry. Okay, yeah, somebody was asking Kishore that do you have a community like Aarohi in Hyderabad? I'm not very sure. Meaning, we don't have Aarohi in Hyderabad. There could be some more communities there. I'm immediately not knowing anything specifically, but if you could drop me an email, I can look up and see if there are some more alternate spaces. I'm sure there are, and I can help you out with that information. But if you want to be part of Aarohi from Hyderabad, that is also possible. If you want to be part of Aarohi at campus, that's not immediately possible. The campus is not open right now for people, but we are slowly opening up, and in the next couple of months the action is starting. So February there is some amount of opening up, and by March more opening up for more people to visit.
This is in the context of COVID.
Yeah, this is the concept. This is what I think Divya was asking. So Divya, right now we are uh, at this very moment, January, it's only children who have been part of Aarohi. They are coming. Then in the second phase from February onwards, we are calling it family weeks, where typically families who would like to join Aarohi and hence they want to come and taste Aarohi or sample this open learning for a week. So we are inviting, calling it family weeks for people who want to be part of Aarohi. And then I think towards March end, we will open up to anybody coming even for a day or 2 days. Hopefully with everything going as planned and COVID not bothering us beyond what it has already bothered. So yeah, that's yeah, somebody's asking, are parents an integral part? Absolutely. I think I already told you There are no parents in Aarohi, there are no children in Aarohi, they are only community members. We are all together learning what each one of us went to learn. So there is, if you allow me to put it this way, children don't join Aarohi, families join Aarohi, right? So by that, I hope you understand that uh, um, that parents are an integral part of the community. You don't have to be physically here, but you are part of the community from wherever you are. Uh, Even if you go to the North Pole or the South Pole, we'll catch you, or rather, you will still be part of the ROE. So, yes, Shrujana, as I told you, ROE is working in two parts. One part is at the campus, and there's a whole lot of families, almost about 40, 50 families who are part of Aarohi, which is what you are calling as remotely or through technology and digital ways. So if you want to be part of Aarohi as um, from your home, you're most welcome. Just look up the website. I can also type the link and you will get all the information. Oh, Dwiji has already typed that. Super. Um, but if you want to come to Aarohi, that also link Dwiji has posted, so you can look up those links. Yeah, I think one of few people, Divya, you wanted to ask some questions when you were on mic, and at that time I had requested you to hold on. Maybe you can ask the questions now. I'm just looking at the questions in the chat. Oh, Shrujana is
Hi.
asking. Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
Sorry. Hi, this is Aarti here.
Yeah.
I'm a mother of twin toddlers. They're about 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand the structure you've spoken about and self led learning. But how does this help A, or how would you structure this A for toddlers? And B, how would you be able to ensure through the structure that toddlers meet what is considered medically milestones for them to be able to get through certain stages of their initial life?
Mm, okay, so maybe I'll answer the second question first, and then the first would be a little more answered in that process. So, first of all, I don't know what you mean by these roadmaps or so called medically. I don't think there is anything like that. There are no such milestones. I'll give you one simple example. My son, who is now 16, but when he was younger, he did not learn how to read till almost 8 years, and we were perfectly fine with that. We never told him you need to learn to read because you are 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, and see other children are learning at 4 years, 5 years. So we never really said anything to him. And at 8, he decided that he wants to learn how to read simply because he wanted to read more from the websites and so on. And we said, okay, now that you want, he came to us and said, I want to learn how to read. I said, okay, go ahead, learn how to read. And within few months, he was reading like nobody's business. And from then onwards, he has been a voracious reader. Right? He finishes off novels in nights, and he typically buys at a time dozen books. So what I'm trying to tell you is that let's not go by any of these milestones. A 4-year-old to me is a voracious um, or more than voracious, a very determined, self-directed learner. So these children at 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year, 6 years, they are fierce open learners. We don't need to do any planning with them. Whole day they are up to something or the other. They're doing, and they pick up so many things. They pick up whatever you want to learn in terms of, let's say, mathematical skills, language skills, communication skills, cooking skills, you name it. In fact, Advik, he did not mention that he has no major foundation on mathematics, and he's doing all kinds of fancy analysis and all kinds of things. What I'm trying to say with Advik's example is at 13, when he needed to learn all these, what is an average? He didn't even know at 13. He asked me, what is an average, uncle? I said, okay, you figure out. Now that you need to learn moving average, you first need to know what is an average. And he, at that age, he learned it. And not only he learned it, average and moving average, he has gone much, much ahead. And he's now coding to make a tool which can tell him predictors on the stock market using price as a point base. So all of that very complicated stuff, he's doing that within a span of couple of years. What I'm trying to prove or show that one way of learning is the structured first standard, second standard, third standard, and those have been considered as milestone. But another way of learning is to learn what you want to learn at that moment. And you may learn trigonometry when you're 40 years old if you need trigonometry at that time. You don't need to learn it at the age of whatever. I think at 10, 12 nowadays they teach trigonometry, or whatever age they teach. I've forgotten when they teach. Uh, so it's if that is an answer to your question. So uh, for a 4-year old, I would say don't do anything. Just let them lead their life. They will lap up everything. When they want to know a story, they will come to you, read this to me, read it to them. When they want to make something, they will provide them with the resources, and so on. And that is what typically we do at campus with most children. The older children tend to discuss their planning mode, think about a week or something. 3, 4, 5 years olds live in the present. All our great spiritual gurus have said live in the present, so we need to learn from these 3, 4 year olds. They are our spiritual gurus.
Thank you so much. I I appreciate what you've just shared with us. I also agree in terms of the way we see it. We see how these our kids learn today. What you're talking about is actually reality in our house. My other question then is, I think then the first question still is a little, you're saying then that we will just allow kids to do what they want to do. At this age, in this age group, there's going to be, because I feel like at this age group, they don't know what they're doing at all. So some amount of guidance, some amount of support helps them in a certain direction, which I
Sure.
feel like older kids probably don't entirely need, or they've seen a lot more. So they understand, or they have choices to make, or they have opinions. But the younger ones have opinions, but don't know too much. So the more we introduce them, the more they learn. So what maybe is the approach to introduce them to new things? Maybe that's a better place question then.
Yeah, so what you are talking about is exposure, that we expose
Fair.
them to a lot more things. Maybe they have listened to pop music, maybe they've never heard jazz music or classical music. So you may play that in the environment and say, hey, this is jazz, you like it, or this is classical, you like it. So, yes, exposure, I guess, is something which, yeah, first of all, exposure is very natural in today's very wired, very connected world. They're exposed to literally the whole world. So, and a lot of things we do for exposure. One of the things that we do is travel a lot, go to a lot of different places. Obviously, we haven't traveled in the last 1 year since COVID happened, but before that, we travel a lot to lot many places, doing lots of different things across the country. The other thing that we do for exposure is bring a lot of people to the community. We introduce children to people because we think people are most amazing libraries. Now, they're not just libraries of knowledge, they're libraries of different journeys, how this person has lived his life and that person has lived his life. And anything can be an inspiration to not just younger children, to older children, to even adults like me. So I'm again not getting caught up with the age part, that younger, older. I would say exposure for all is good, and then the child can decide whether the child wants to get exposed or not. So I'll give you again an example. When a guest comes to the campus, and we really bring in a lot of people to our campus, all kinds of people. So when a guest comes to the campus, not everybody gets connected to that guest in the same way. Some will just little bit know about them. Some will spend more time. Some will spend a lot of time with guests. So different people get connected, which means each one is choosing how much I want to get exposed from this person. Right. In the same way, if I put classical music in the environment, not every child will walk up to me and say, Uncle, what is this? I'm curious. Some will say, this is too boring. How can you even listen to something like this? So I'm saying it's okay. It's okay for each child to also take in what he's or she is ready for at that moment. So that is, so I got exposed to classical music almost at the age of 19 or 20. Before that, I had no exposure. And I got so exposed in a little span of 3 hours, it totally flipped me over. And from that time onwards, classical music has just been part of my listening playlist ever. So I'm just giving you an example of how things can flip over at any point of time. It doesn't need to be at that age of 4 or 6 or anything.
Got it. Okay, I have one last follow-up question to that. Sorry, I know I
Sure,
have two more
sure,
questions.
sure.
But I understand that it's a free-flowing structure. My question is, at such a young age, if we, if there is no way that we are, how do we ensure that kids build a certain regime, a certain discipline? Because in the long run, discipline and structure plays a very important role, especially for them as they become adults. It becomes a very important role. Now, I understand that at 8, 9, 10, or even 13, 14, the sense of structure will come in. But a lot of kids learn that as foundational, as a part of their foundation. How do we ensure that kids learn that at Aarohi? That's my
Okay,
last question, and
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. You can ask many more questions. I hope it is not your last question. Only maybe today it's your last question, but please keep questioning. So answer is again, we don't need to. It will be a misnomer to think that by forcing a structure, the children are learning how to be structured or disciplined. Typical conventional thinking forces discipline. That's not disciplining. To me, disciplining comes automatically when I have a purpose. You tell a 6 year old who's going to, let's say, or a 7, 8 year old that we are going to picnic tomorrow and he's up at 5 o'clock. Right? The same child may not be disciplined in getting up for anything else. So you realize the getting up discipline is nothing to do with with the discipline. It's to do with for what am I to get up at 6 o'clock. If it's to go for a picnic, I'm all game for it. Okay. When it is to go to something else, I'm not game for it. So you realize disciplining or structuring or channelizing oneself is to do more with the child own purpose, own vision, own thinking, and that comes at different paces in different ways. Even a 5 year old, even a 1 year old is very disciplined, not disciplined the way you may want him to be, but he's disciplined, let's say, in terms of how he wants to, when he wants to sleep. And when does he sleep? When he's feeling sleepy. I'll call that as more discipline rather than going to sleep by a clock. So again, disciplining itself is, I would say, too much of a catchword built out of a control system. Uh, what really controls here is the child's desire to learn and desire to do things. And yes, we are all there to guide, support, mentor, show, expose, explore, experiment, experience, and so on with the child. So it is not that we have no role to fill. It is you calling it free flowing. I would still not call it free flowing. I say it's a responsible day that a 4 year old spends. At the end of the day, the child knows, okay, I decided to spend time playing. I decided to spend time doing this, and tomorrow I can change those decisions, and the child knows that. That to me is open learning, when the child knows that it is my decision, my life. So in that sense, it is not free flowing, rather it's a responsible living. Yeah. And
Beautiful.
maybe the child is not able to articulate in all those words, and we look at it differently. But as the child evolves, the child understands the meaning of this. In the sense, he's able to think in those ways, articulate in those ways, and then formulate his discipline. I've seen so many children. Last week we had guest Shreya. She's a 16-year-old. To this week we have Advik. Next week we have another two boys coming up. If you listen to these boys, where did they get all these? They have not gone to school. Yeah, they have not been conditioned, yet they are able to do all this. So if you think about how did they learn this so-called discipline, it's not a factor of somebody else forcing them. It's a factor of them understanding what role something plays in their life. And it's come from their own understanding, not an imposed, controlled environment.
Understood. Thank you so much for answering that.
Sorry, I gave a very long answer to you.
No, I appreciate it. It's very important to us. So thank you.
Yeah. So
Um, I, I have one question.
just give me one moment. I'll just switch on a light. My whole background has become very dark. Just give me one moment. Yeah, that's I think little better. I had gone into a black hole. Yeah, please go ahead.
Um, Hi, this is Lata here. I saw that, when you were talking about how children learn at Aarohi, you were talking about you have mentors, facilitators, peers, and guidance, if I may call them. I mean, I'm not sure how you refer to all this community that is around them, right? I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, each community brings a particular um, talent, and also the other thing is children themselves have different personalities, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
each child is some children are very exuberant, some children, how do you address that among, like, a peer group, or among your um, elder children, like, if you have small children, how does it work with, like, older children, how does this all work?
I'm not very sure I've understood the question, but what I would like to say,
Okay.
it isn't supposed to work. We aren't supposed to make anything out of it. That is the beauty of a community, that there is so much diversity, that each child is a different color of style of doing, and that's what makes us a rainbow of a community. And there will be conflicts, there will be clash of interests, while there will be support and learning from younger to older, older to younger. Yeah, so it's beautiful, I would say. And that is the real fun of being in a community. It's like non-stop, you can say non-stop fluctuations and variations and diversities and so on.
Yeah. I would like to just add a point there, Ratnesh.
Yeah,
Uh,
please, Dviji. Yeah.
this is Vijay here. Lata, the to make something work is essentially to have a target in mind, right? And the target here is to live and live responsibly. So, if we were to translate, make it work to how do we live responsibly? I would say we live responsibly by leading by example, and by being what, or by practicing what we are talking, right? So yeah, I think I would leave it at that, because beyond that it's about getting into the details of, what do we mean by living responsibly and stuff like that. So you can find a
But
lot of.
I Sorry. No, I appreciate both answers. I think both of them have helped actually. I mean, I like the idea of saying, "Hey, it's not really supposed to work," and I I kind of appreciate that candor. Right? It's kind of refreshing, and it definitely makes me question a lot more in terms of, "Hey, what have I been thinking all along?" So I appreciate that a lot. And yes, I do agree that I think yes, we will leave what live responsibly is for
Yeah.
another day. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
to
I'm
add,
glad we have given you more questions.
and to add to what Vijay is saying, one of the aspect is to consider everybody at par and to have a lot of reflections. The reflections can be just by myself, a lot of discussions, a lot of interactions between each other. So if Dwiji finds me being not responsible, he can freely initiate a dialogue with me. It could be in a written form, it could be in a spoken form, or many other forms. And in the same thing, a child finds a 5-year-old finds my behavior not okay. He can question me, and I can question the 5-year-old. And when both of us realize that we are equally responsible, not just for ourselves but for each other, then it becomes a beautiful community. So that is very, very important, that we don't think that I am 52, so how can you tell me what to do. I am as much a 5-year-old as much a 52-year-old. So yeah, it has to be a community. By definition, everybody is equal, and that's, I think, very important. Okay. um, I hope I answered all the questions in the chat. But if I missed out anything, you can either copy paste it again or come on the mic.
I have a question, not for you, Ratnesh. I'm just curious. We have a participant with the name Avir and Bodhi, and in the chat, I saw three different names. And then when we had one of someone ask a question with the fourth name, so I'm
Yeah,
just
they are the children name, I think.
okay.
Okay.
And there was
Hang on.
Rajesh,
There's
Ganesh, and then
Yeah, you missed the introductions, Vijay. In the beginning, they
oh,
introduce.
sorry
Yeah,
about.
but I will allow them to answer your question again.
So there's Ganesh and Anshu here, who are parents of Maya, who's not here. There's Rajesh, the one who spoke earlier was Aarti, my wife, and we are the parents of Avir and Bodhi. And Aarti just left. Avir and Bodhi were never here.
No
Uh,
problem.
so that's the community. We have a cover here.
Yeah, just
We are like
curious.
a little
Sorry.
village of our own.
Yeah, and then
Absolutely
Lata,
beautiful.
Beautiful.
Ganesh,
Thank
and
you. Thank you,
who spoke
Rajesh.
earlier. We're all in the same community too.
Super, super.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I have to say, it's always for us, at least as a, we've always felt like a co-parent, right? I mean, Ganesh, Anisha, and me, and now Abir and Bodhi as well. They're the new ones in the family, right? And it's like we're like a village. I mean, I
wow.
always look at, I mean, I always feel like our children are growing up in a village, and that always helps. I mean, I know if even if I falter, one of them is there to pick them up. So that's kind
Yeah.
of really nice.
So you
And I
already
mean, I think
experienced
that's why,
community.
right, amongst us, like definitely among us. And I think we've all been struggling to find like a school environment or like a learning environment, as you will, that actually helps us through that process as well. So, yeah. For us, yeah, it has to be all or none type of thing, right? It's kind of an
Mhm.
important village.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Sure, sure.
I always say that was a bit of a spelling mistake. It's all or one and not all or none because I mean, in terms of self-directed and stuff, it's much better when it's all or one rather than all or none.
Fair enough. Agreed.
Right. So I also, I guess it must be getting late for some people. So I'm also just emphasizing that we are always available for you to connect one to one. Not necessarily, you don't have to join Aarohi. It's just an open community. If you feel like being part of the community, if you want to check it out, you can talk to us. But if you just want to continue your own journey of open learning in your own little family or a smaller community, please feel free to connect with us, and we would be able to guide you to whatever extent we can guide you. So we are very open for that. So please feel free to connect with us. I am once again posting my number. This is my number, and I'm also posting Aditi's WhatsApp number. If you feel more comfortable WhatsApping, my number was the first one which you have to call, not WhatsApp. So these are the two numbers. You already have the website address, and yeah, so you can get in touch with us for any kind of whatever help, guidance, or just chit chatting, more questions that you have, or if you would like to connect with the community. Yeah. Okay, if anybody has more questions, we can take it. Otherwise, maybe we can take a pause now, again with the promise that at any time you want to connect, you can, connect with us. And also a reminder that we do this webinar. Yedviji, this time I remembered to say this. We do this webinar every Saturday. We have been doing this now for, I think, more than a year almost. And every Saturday it's a new guest. Next weekend, I think it's two boys who will be there talking about their journey of rigor. So one of the things people think that open learning means no rigor, you take life easy, but these guys take life just the other way around. They're really taking their life really, you can say, with a lot of rigor and a lot of application, totally driven by them. So uh, you will meet them next Saturday. Meanwhile, if you have a question, you can still ask. Yeah, and by the way, recordings of all the webinars we have done on this Saturday series over the last 1 year are all there on YouTube or on the website as a playlist. So that resource is available.
Well, thank you, guys.
Yeah, anybody has more questions?
I'm good. So I guess thank you so much for your time. So I'm going to head out as well.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you
so
so much.
I'll take that as an indication, and we may actually let's close this webinar here, and yeah, let's connect offline, one to one, as and when you need to connect with us. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you
Didi.
so much for it. And I definitely look forward to some more of your sessions. I will definitely reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.